Jai Shri Swaminarayan, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Siya Ram, Jai Mataji, Har Har Mahadev. Welcome to the first part of the Vachanamrut series. Today we'll be covering Gadhada Pratham 1. So let's understand what the Vachanamrut is. Let's understand where it came from. And to understand that, we have to go to Attaining Swami. So within his Granth, in his scripture, he writes a little background story in terms of how the Vachanamrut came around and where it all began. Now this began within his journey. Now his journey begins in the somewhat year 1876 on the night of Magshar Sud the 4th. Now during this time, Attaining Swami was singing the beautiful bhajans of Shriji Maharaj with his Guru Muktanand Swami. Now at this time it was night time around 10:20. Now at the same time Lord Sri Swaminarayan Bhagwan was fast asleep within his Akshar Ori, within his residence. Now as soon as Muktanand Swami started singing, his voice travelled to Shriji Maharaj. As it travelled, Maharaj woke up. As he woke up, he asked one of his devotees and said, "I can hear Muktanand Swami singing. Please check. Can you make sure who is it?" So Maharaj asked Devji Bhagat and told him to go and check who is singing this beautiful bhajan. So Devji Bhagat went to the son's residence hall, and there as he went, he didn't go inside, but he just asked the Swami and goes, "Who is singing?" But at that time one of the Swamis were not sure, and they said, "I think it's Brahmanand Swami." So then Devji Bhagat said, "Perfect, that's my answer." So he went straight to Shriji Maharaj and said, "Shriji Maharaj, I think it's Brahmanand Swami." Then Maharaj started laughing and goes, "Are you sure?" And then Devji Bhagat goes, "Yes Maharaj, this is what the Swami said." He was umming and ahhing. Then Maharaj goes, "I don't think that's the answer. Did you see with your physical two eyes that it was Brahmanand Swami singing?" Then Devji Bhagat folded his hands and said, "No Maharaj, I didn't see." So Maharaj goes, "Do not worry. Let's both of us go and travel to the son's residence hall and see who is singing." So in the middle of the night, Maharaj went across to the residence hall where the santos were, and there singing mystically in a beautiful night was Muktanand Swami and several other santos. As soon as Maharaj took his footsteps within, the light shone brightly, and there the santos said to Maharaj, "Please take seat. We are so welcome that you have arrived at the middle of this night." So they got Maharaj seated down comfortably, and Maharaj sat down and started smiling amongst all the santos and the devotees. And then Maharaj said, "I am so pleased with this beautiful kirtan. But before we continue further, let me proceed with few questions which I have in my heart." And now this is the very start and the beginning of the Vachanamrut. This is how the Vachanamrut began, and this can all be traced from Attaining Swami's story. So let us begin with the very first chapter, which is Gadhada Pratham 1 within the Vachanamrut, and let's read the first paragraph. In the somewhat year 1876, on the night of Magshar Sud 4th, Shriji Maharaj had come to the residential hall of the sadhus in Dada Kachar's Darbar in Gadhada. He was dressed entirely in white clothes, and at that time, sadhus as well as Haribhaktas from various places had gathered before him. Then Shriji Maharaj asked the first question: "What is the most difficult of all spiritual activities?" Okay, so here at this case, Shriji Maharaj asked an amazing question. He goes, "What is the most difficult of all difficult tasks? What is the toughest of all toughest tasks?" And at this time, the devout sadhus and brahmacharis all tried to answer this difficult question. But however, none of them could answer the right answer. None of them could provide the answer which Shriji Maharaj wanted. So then Maharaj, with his daya bhav, with his beautiful smile, and said, let me answer this question. So let's hear the answer, what Shriji Maharaj states. So Shriji Maharaj says, "There is no spiritual activity more difficult than to continuously engage one's mind on the Swarup of Bhagwan. The Shastras state that there is no greater achievement for one whose mind's vritti is constantly focused on Bhagwan's murti. This is because the murti of Bhagwan is like a chintamani. Now here Maharaj reveals the great answer that the hardest of all tasks is one and only, which is to focus on the Maharaj's murti constantly, 24 hours within the day. Can we focus on Maharaj's murti constantly? Now, as we know, the answer at this moment for majority of us, not all of us, but majority of us, is probably no. Why? Because when we even sit down to perform the puja of Maharaj, when we sit down to do bhajan bhakti of Maharaj, our mind is racing elsewhere. Our mind is not even in the mandir when we are in mandir. When we're performing the divine great arti of Bhagwan, our mind is racing elsewhere. So if our mind can't even focus when it has to, how will our mind constantly engage 24 hours within the Maharaj's murti? Fortunately, within the Sanatan Dharma, we are so lucky and fortunate that we have attained great devotees who have attained this level of constant engagement within the murti of Bhagwan. 24 hours within the day, their mind is within Maharaj. If we look at Mirabai, she constantly was focused in Bhagwan Shri Krishna. If we look at Tulsidas, he was constantly focused in the murti of Lord Bhagwan Shri Ram. If we look at Muktanand Swami, he was constantly focused in the murti of Sri Swaminarayan Bhagwan. And it's only then when he can sing a beautiful kirtan like Mare tamati nati koi pyaru re, Mare tamati nati koi pyaru re, मैं तो सर्वस तम पर वारु रे, आवो अंतर्यामी. Now we have to ask ourselves, have we attained that level? Do we have that love and desire for Bhagwan? At this moment, we may not be on that level, but we have to keep pushing that we can strive towards these levels. And hence we are reading these great divine scriptures which can push us towards that direction. This reminds me of an amazing story of Gunatitanand Swami. One day Gunatitanand Swami was seated within a dining hall. Shiji Maharaj was there as well, and he was serving all these great santos divine prasad. As he started serving this divine prasad, Maharaj offered ladus to all the santos. But Gunatitanand Swami didn't want the ladvas at that time. All he wanted was the divine murti of Maharaj. Now, at that time, Maharaj made a very strict rule that no santos of mine can travel by themselves single-handedly. They always have to travel in pairs. So as a result, Gunatitanand Swami realized that later in the afternoon, Maharaj was going to be traveling across the country and going to a different village. So Gunatitanand Swami was very upset. So as a result, he made a plan with the son next to him, goes, hey Swami, I'll give you these ladvas. All I want is you have to accompany me so we can travel together to the next village so we can constantly see Maharaj's murti. So late in the afternoon, when Maharaj got ready and sat upon his monkey ghori, and he set off upon his horse, and as he was riding away, there came Gunatitanand Swami and the other Swami running. And as they caught up with Maharaj, Gunatitanand Swami started running backwards. And as he was running backwards, Maharaj started laughing and smiling and said, hey Swami, what are you doing? What kind of stunt is this? Swami started smiling and said, hey Maharaj, all I want to see is your divine murti constantly for the rest of my life. And Maharaj was so pleased that the desire and this cup and this constant love which Gunatitanand Swami had. And this is something we can learn from him. This is an example which we can kind of implement in our lives, where we are constantly focusing and trying to engage in Maharaj's murti. So now let's move to question number 2. Thereafter, Shet Govardhan Bhai asked Shiji Maharaj, what is the nature of Bhagwan's Maya? Now Shiji Maharaj replied, Maya is anything that obstructs a bhakta of Bhagwan while one is performing dhyan of Bhagwan's murti. Now this is a very beautiful question and which is relatable to all of us. So Shet Govardhan Bhai asked him, hey Bhagwan, what is the nature of Maya? And then Maharaj, in simple terms, just explains that Maya is anything and everything which will distract us from attaining Bhagavan. So that can be a phone, that can be a family, that can be our work, that can be anything in life which will take us away from Bhagavan. Now, to understand this in practical terms, imagine there is a winning prize, and the winning prize is millions and billions of dollars. But now the only caveat is, in order to cash in this prize, we got 60 minutes, and 60 minutes only from our house to get to that central location where we have to cash in that prize. Now, in order to do that, we have to leave right now. Now, as we are leaving right now, we'll face millions of distractions. Our parents will say, hey, where are you going? Work will say, hey, you got deadlines to meet. Cricket match will be going on, the football match will be going on. People will say, hey, why don't you watch and enjoy this? Your friends will call you and say, hey, let's go out. But in this moment of time, you only have 60 minutes, and within the 60 minutes, you want to get to that one place and one place only, and to cash in that prize, and nothing will stop you. And when you realize the Mahima, the greatness, why? Because if you can attain that prize, everything, all your dreams will come true. That will become your wishing stone. When you have all the money in the world, you can do anything what you want. Just like that, similarly in the Vachanamrut, Maharaj says, when you attain Maharaj's Murti, it becomes a wishing stone. When you realize that Mahima and understand the greatness of how great Maharaj is, all these distractions will wither away. You won't have to force yourself and saying, no, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to get distracted. Nothing will even attract you towards it. All you will want to do is just focus on Maharaj's Murti, and you will constantly go towards that. So now let's move on to the third question. So now Muktanand Swami asks, when a bhakta leaves his physical body, which is composed of the 5 bhuts, and goes to Akshardham, what type of body does he attain? Now, this is a great insightful question from Muktanand Swami. So he's asking that when we leave this material body and we go to the divine abode of Bhagavan, what happens to us? So Maharaj answers. Maharaj says the devotee who follows the Dharmaku will attain a Brahma divine body when they go to the abode of Bhagavan. So Maharaj is saying that when we go and leave this human body, we will be able to attain a divine Brahma body. Brahma means a divine celestial body, and that celestial body is not made of these 5 materialistic elements, but that body will be made from the divine celestial aspects which is found within the divine abode of Bhagavan. Now, one thing to note here, Maharaj will reference this across the Vachanamrut when we read in the future, is to attain Akshardham, to attain his divine abode, we don't have to leave this body. No, that is not the case. In fact, Maharaj says that we can attain Akshardham in this very same body. We can attain Akshardham whilst being on earth. Now you're probably asking, how is that possible? Well, Maharaj states that when we are performing the divine arti, when we are performing bhajan bhakti, in that very moment we will experience divine ecstasy. And when we experience that divine feeling, that moment, we have to realize and understand that this is Akshardham. And when we go to Mandir and when we do darshan of Bhagwan's Murti, we have to realize that this is Akshardham, this is his divine abode. And when we see the good and see Bhagwan in every single soul and fruit and plants and everywhere, we will see Bhagwan in Kan-Kan, like the gopis used to see Krishna Bhagwan in every single thing, in every single atom they saw Bhagwan Shri Krishna. In that same way, they were in the abode of Bhagwan. In that same way, we can also attain that level, or that's the level which we want to aspire to, where in every single atom we see Bhagwan. And when we see that, that is the equivalent of being in his divine abode. Now we will move on to question number 4. Thereafter, Harji Thakkar asked Shiji Maharaj Some have been practicing satsang for quite some time, yet they do not harbor the same profound love for satsang as they do for their own body or their own relatives. What is the reason for this? Now this is an amazing question because it's so relatable to us and it applies to us directly. Because within the Sanatan Dharma, we've been chanting for many years. Within this satsang, within this fellowship, we've been constantly going to mandir. We've been doing bhajan bhakti, we've been doing arati, we've been doing puja. But yet, that same love which we feel for our mother, our father, our family is not equivalent. It's not the same love which we have for Bhagwan. Now, this is the question. Why is that so? If we understood and understand, that Bhagwan is so great, but yet that love cannot be found. Why is that so? This is an amazing question. So now Maharaj will answer this question. Shriji Maharaj explained that such a person has not fully realized the glory of Bhagwan. When a sant talks to him about his swabhav, the person is not able to change his behavior. Instead, he develops hatred towards the sant that has advised them. Now Maharaj is explaining in simple terms that when a devotee like us is trying to get closer to Bhagwan, when he's following his right path, but when he gets stuck and when he's about to fall, he might find guidance from a sant, might find guidance from a guru, he might find guidance from a devotee. But when that devotee or that sant tells him, saying, "Hey Bhagat, you're doing something wrong," or "Hey Bhagat, you have to improve on X, Y, Z," but then we get an ego trip. We suddenly flip out and say, "Hey, who are you to tell me? I am so great, I am so learned, I constantly read or I constantly sing. Who are you to tell me my flaws?" And when we face this ego trip, Maharaj is stating that this is our downfall, because instead of seeing the good within the sant, we see the bad within him. And because of this sin which we have caused against this great sant or this great devotee, this is our natural cause for our downfall. So let's continue what Maharaj states further on. It is due to this sinful act that he does not develop intense love for satsang. After all sins committed elsewhere, they are washed away by association with the sant. But sins committed against a sant are washed away only by the grace of the sant himself, not by any other means. The Shastra also states, "Anya shetram kruttam papam tirtha shetra vinashahit, tirtha shetra kruttam papam vajra lepo bhavishahit." Now this Sanskrit slok is beautiful, and the explanation which Maharaj references from this is that when we create a sin out of the realm of a tirth, then that pap, that sin can only be washed away if we go to mandir, if we go to this tirth. But if we create that very sin in at that tirth, then that sin cannot be washed away. Now Maharaj is explaining this tirth aspect with the sant. However, if we make our very sins against that sant, against the saint who is able to help us, then we will not be able to move on further. Now, as we can see, it's so important that we find a guru or a sant who we can take their shelter, because they act as a compass. If we follow their guidance, they will be able to direct us towards Bhagwan. But if we have an ego trip and become rude towards them and feel that we are untouchable, then we have no hope. By their gracious guidance, we'll be able to get closer towards Bhagwan. Now, within this Vachanamrut, we have touched upon 4 different aspects. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this Vachanamrut and you've taken something out of it. Once again, if I made any mistakes, I'm really sorry and I truly apologize. I really hope you can join me next time for the next episode where we will cover the next Vachanamrut. So ne, namaste, namaskar.